So today I'm going to talk about intermittent fasting. So what is it? How do you do it? And like all of my videos, I'm going to keep it nice and simple for you. Let me just share up my screen. Okay, so my guide to intermittent fasting. So why do you need this? So I'm not going to read this to you, but I will summarize it and you can sort of follow along. But if you had time to sit at home all day and you had time to meal prep, you had time to go to the gym, you could do all these things. You didn't have all the commitments you do. You could get it right. You could meal prep, you could hit the gym all the time, but that's not a solution for most career-driven people. It's difficult. You've got work stresses, there's family commitments, there's so much going on. That's not an option. So what these people need, what you need, is something that works, something that's effective, and ultimately it fits in with your life. And intermittent fasting could form part of that. Now, I often use intermittent fasting with my clients. It's one of the first things I do introduce because it's easy, it's effective, it gives you time back. So yeah, keep following this video, keep listening, and this is going to tell you how I do it and how my clients do it and how you can best utilize it. So if you don't know who I am, that's me. I'm Chris James. I'm a performance and health behaviour change coach. So I'm married. I've got a daughter. I was a former police officer, foster parent as well. But essentially, I coach busy people to lose weight, look the business, feel the part, and I do it without calorie counting, without complicated plans, and without sucking the fun out of life. Because ultimately, whatever you come up with, whatever plan you decide to follow, it's got to fit you. It's got to be something that's long lasting. Otherwise, you're just going to get there and then lose it again and go back to default. So for me, sustainability is key here. So what is intermittent fasting? So put simple, it's an effective way of starting that weight loss journey so we can effortlessly create a calorie deficit. So in short, skip breakfast. So if you're eating something like that on the right hand side, if you can, skip it out, get through to lunch, you've reduced some calories there in your day. A bowl of cereal like that could be 300 to 500 calories that you're taking on board. And if you can manage without breakfast, it's not the most important meal of the day. That's one way of creating that deficit. You do that 5 days a week, you do that 7 days a week. You've created a deficit there already without actually doing anything. And as I said, in fact, it's giving you more time back because you're not preparing breakfast, you're not having to do those things. So how does it work? So it's basically a structured way of eating. So rather than just eating whenever, you decide, actually, this is my eating window. So generally people will follow what they call a 16-8 window. So that's a 16-hour fast. And when we fast, I'm talking things like water, black coffee, teas, that sort of thing. So anything with calories in it. So that could be fruit juices, it could be milk in your coffee, sugar in your coffee, that sort of thing. All of those technically count as breaking your fast. So 16 hours would be fasted and 8 hours would be the eating window. So that's where you would break your fast, you'd have your lunch, maybe a snack in there, your evening meal, and then you'd go on back onto fasting again, water, coffees, etc. Now, some people will follow an 18-6. That's a little bit harder, obviously a longer fast, a shorter window. But ultimately, it's your call. It doesn't have to be, there's no hard and fast rule. It doesn't have to be breakfast. It could be that you have breakfast and then sort of like a later sort of lunch, and that's your 8-hour window. So it's about looking at your life, looking at your lifestyle, looking at your routines and deciding what works for you. Now, personally, I'm not opposed to a little bit of milk in a coffee. If you can't stomach black coffee, it doesn't mean you can't intermittent fast. It just, the die-hard fasters will say you're not getting the full benefits. And arguably they are right, but you're still doing something. You're still reducing that 500 calories of cereal in the morning. Sort of skipped ahead there, but as it says there, if you speak to the sort of die-hard fasters, they'll talk about ketones and fat burn and all this sort of stuff. And as I say, whilst it might be true, ultimately this comes down to calorie deficit. If you can put your body into a calorie deficit, you're going to lose some weight. If you can skip out, some breakfast, and generally breakfast, especially cereals, nutritionally they're not balanced, they're not very good for you. If you can cut the crap out, happy days, that's a healthier option. So this isn't starving yourself. This is about creating a deficit. And what you could do with that deficit, even if you're not trying to lose weight, if you cut out the 500 calories of breakfast, it gives you a bit more variability in your evening meal. Or if you do want to go out and have some drinks or have pudding or that sort of thing, it gives you those calories for that. So from, like I say, my clients who are busy, short on time, it's an easy method. So what can you eat during your window? Anything. Ultimately, the only caveat to this is if you are skipping out your breakfast, if we are reducing it by 300 to 500 calories, if you then upsize the food in your window by the same, you are going to maintain, which again depends on what your goals are. If you're looking to lose weight, we need to create the deficit. We need to keep those calories in our back pocket. But if you're not, if it is just a case of actually, I'm going to skip the breakfast because I don't want it, but then we're going to have a more enjoyable eating window. I'm going to eat the things I want to. Fine, perfect. Ultimately, it's your life, it's your routine, and it's about finding something that works for you. But what I would say is when you are following intermittent fasting, you come to lunchtime, you're going to be hungry, you're going to want some nourishing, decent food. So make sure whatever is in your window, it's balanced, it's plenty of protein, plenty of fruit and veg, good amount of carbohydrate in there. So it's still got to be a balanced diet. You can't just continue to eat crap if that's what you're doing inside the window and expect it to work. It will to some degree, but it's not the right way of doing it. What are some of the pitfalls? What should you watch out for? So firstly, don't go to extremes. Set yourself a reasonable window to start, and it might be maybe 16/8 is too much. Maybe you'd need to have a looser window than that even so, but it's just about moving things forward. So it might be that actually you knock your breakfast back, or you knock that first meal back to 10 o'clock, and that's a good start for a week, and then we move it forward. So don't decide, right, suddenly I'm going to do a 18/6 or a 20/4, because it's going to be hard. You're going to feel like you're starving yourself. It's not pleasurable, it's not right, it's not a long-term approach. Watch out for that binge. So I mentioned come lunchtime, you might feel hungrier, especially when you first start doing this. So make sure you've got a good, healthy, filling lunch. Really important. It's not just about the skipping the breakfast, it's about then how you open that fast, because if you do it with the wrong foods, if you do it with the wrong types of food, you're going to be hungry for the rest of that day. You're going to move those calories into that eating window, or you're going to feel like you're starving all day. Plenty of water with your lunch, little things you can do just to make it a little bit easier. And look, don't beat yourself up. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. If you have to break your fast an hour earlier, it doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world. There's no sort of hard, fast rules here. My ethos is progress over perfection. It's about making sure we're just improving. We're just getting better. And yeah, if you can push that breakfast back, or you can, knock it out altogether, even if your window's not ideal or you're having some milk in your coffee, so what? It's not, it's not something to worry about. So how do you start? Firstly, try and decide on a window. Have a think about what works for you. Think about your routine. Do you have breakfast with the kids, or do you skip breakfast altogether because you leave quite early on? So actually, you could skip out the breakfast. That'd be fine. Maybe actually it's the evening meal you want to drop out. But think about your routine. Think about what's going to work better for you. And again, it's no hard and fast rule. You might decide something, you might give it a try and it doesn't work, so then actually we'll try something else. But it's about finding what works for you for a little bit of trial and error. But decide on your window. Decide when you're roughly wanting to break that fast. Have a target. Try and aim for it. Try and push towards it. You don't need to starve yourself to get there, but don't just cave in at the first sort of little rumbling in your stomach. Think about how you can sort of get through this. So aim for a high protein lunch, plenty of fruit and vegetables in the diet, and again, that's going to help avoid that binge. And drink plenty of water. A splash of dilute, cordial, squash, whatever you call it, is fine. But yeah, avoid pure sort of fruit juices, because they are just full of sugar and crap, and that will break your fast. And if you have too many calories, what I tend to find personally, and I've heard this from other guys as well, if you do have something in the morning, it still tends to make you quite hungry. It makes that initial fast period quite difficult. So personally, I'm happy with black coffee. I enjoy it. I'm happy with water. That gets me through my sort of fasting period. So anything else to sort of cover? Again, it's your life, it's your diet, it's your way of living. So some of my clients do intermittent fasting religiously. Some don't do it at all. They don't get on with it. Others will do it in the week and maybe have the weekend off when they're at home with a family, with a partner. So that again gives them the flexibility of what they want to do. Even if you only do it in the week, even if Monday to Friday you decide, right, I'm going to cut out the breakfast. I will have breakfast at the weekend, but in the week it's going 300 calories at breakfast, 5 times. 1,500 calories you've cut out over that week. You've got the time back. You've cut out 1,500 calories, which you can either bank or you can move to somewhere else in the diet. Ultimately, it's moving in the right direction. It's a part of that deficit that you're creating, isn't it? So then combined with all the other things we could do, you're going to hit those sort of magic numbers and start to feel the benefits of it. For the first few days, best advice, keep yourself busy. Make sure you're not doing it on a day where you're sat clock watching, you're twiddling your thumbs. And after a few days of doing it, your body will adjust. Now, obviously, if you're doing it in the week but not the weekend, that can have some sort of physical, you might feel that a little bit on the Monday morning, but actually your body might get used to the fact of the routine. When you are working, when you are busy, you sort of just power through that. Plenty of water, get your tea and coffee in there, happy days. So final word, it is a healthy and sustainable sort of plan. It's not a faddy thing, it's not a diet, it is just a structured way of living, and it's ideal for you if you are busy. If you don't have time to sit and meal prep, you can't be hitting the gym all the time. Again, it's just a notch in the belt. It's just a step forward. It's not magic. It's not going to do everything for you. Of course it isn't. But what it does is it just starts that process. It's one part of the puzzle, and then there's plenty of other pieces of the puzzle you can bring in as well. Now, if you found that useful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow my channel for some more videos. There's plenty more like this, and I'll speak to you soon.